Pop Culture Nerdvana with me, Kay, and Jay. And I've
No,
stolen the
don't do
intro
that. Don't do
today.
that. Don't do that. Don't ever do that again. Actually, that threw me right off. That I don't even know what to say now. Yep,
Hi all.
she's Kay and I'm Jay. I think you've actually really thrown me off
John.
with that. No. We'll carry. We'll keep going. We'll keep going. And in today we shall be talking about Empire of Death, the season 1 finale of Doctor Who. We actually don't have any notes at the moment. So this is going to be a lot more loosey-goosey, and we'll probably say some things we regret and get us cancelled later down the line. So yeah, let's get into it. So, I think you've got more to say about this episode than I have, to be honest with you. Because I don't think it hit you the same way it hit me.
I don't think it was bad. I just don't think it was.
Good?
I don't think it was the best finale they could have done. I think bringing back a classic Who villain.
Oh, spoilers, by the way.
Was a good idea. Well, if you haven't watched it by now, was a good idea. But I think it almost made Russell's writing less. I'm trying to think of the word and I can't think of it, so this is going to be great listening for all you guys.
All 16 of you. We're also recording this very hungover, by the way, so... What did you do to the writing? What did you do to the writing?
I'm trying to think and you made me laugh. I think it made him a bit sloppy, in all honesty. I think he relied too much on having that classic villain, and I think it relied on... It was great for people who knew Classic Who, but I think for people who don't know Classic Who, actually it was actually quite a poor villain to use.
I think the episode does pretty well with establishing Sutekh. Like, you have those, like, flashbacks of Tom Baker and stuff, but I think you are right. For someone who's into Classic Who, they're going to get more out of it. But I do agree, your point about the sloppy writing, and I said this, I think this has been a problem throughout this entire era. Russell T Davies' script used to be very tight. There weren't really any kind of leaps in logic. It was very like beginning, middle, end. There was no wasted scenery, if that makes sense. No wasted dialogue, and everything was quite consistent. I found that in this era, it almost feels like a Moffat script, because a Moffat tends to have these leaps in logic, and I find that Russell T Davies is doing that a lot. There's a lot of spectacle, not necessarily the substance.
Yeah. Actually, talking about substance, it's interesting because I think a few episodes ago I spoke about how I like that there seemed to be actual real life consequences with a lot of people dying in the episodes, and then in this episode no one dies, which is fine, but it's meant to be your big bad villain, and yet not.
But they did all die, didn't they? Though it's the Avengers thing.
But it's oh no, everyone's back, so it felt like there were no real consequences. And my other thing is, I think that in order to create a really happy ending, Russell missed out on some really good opportunities for his writing. For me personally, I don't think that Ruby's mother should have been normal. I think if she was normal and you hadn't built her up to be something so big, then fine, but because you built her up to be something so big, to be like, oh, she's just so normal, isn't that wonderful?
And normal is special.
Well, okay, normal can be special, but it's
why
special.
Did you try and make it
Why
a
did
mystery?
you try and make it a mystery then?
You know what, I think that is probably... just bear in mind, I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed the experience, but I was also drunk when watching it, which I've been for a lot of these, really, which says more about me than it does about the show. I enjoyed it, but I could see why people would dislike it, and I think that biggest thing about Ruby's mother just being a normal person, I think that has pissed off so many fans.
I think there were better ways of doing it. Number one, I don't think that actually she should have reunited with her mother. I think in order to create that happy ending, you've missed out on a story which a lot of people have. She didn't go back to find Ruby. I think Ruby should have just gone, actually, do you know what? I accept that.
Yeah.
And I think she should have, you know, because a lot of children do get given away when they're children, because parents can't hack having those children at that time, or because you have unfortunate circumstances. But usually the unfortunate reality is that people will put that behind them as much as possible because it's something traumatic for them, and so you don't have reuniting happy endings, you know. Usually it's, you know, even if she had gone to speak to her mother, for me, I don't know, if that had happened to me, I would be like, I'm really sorry, Ruby, but I gave you away, and
that would be more
not
devastating.
Ready for this. I might be in a few years' time. Just make it slightly more realistic. The other thing that I would have potentially changed, and just not have the mother in it at all.
Yeah.
All of the Mrs. Flood stuff, you could still potentially have, but you could put her in the position of the mother. You could see her at the end for us. You could see potentially her in the hood, rather than her in a big white Cruella de Vil coat. And you could have had Mrs. Flood, which I think would have
have Mrs. Flood be Ruby's mother, like
not be her mother, but I think just get rid of the mother like either
just get rid of the mother thing altogether.
Those two be the same mystery, because he's putting too many mysteries.
There's like 3
in one storyline. Well, in one season, I suppose you could say. And it's kind of exhausting. It's like he's trying to say, look how clever I am. But actually, at the end of the day, you just go, but I think it would have been cleverer to be more, like you said, tighter in your writing.
Tighter, yeah.
And gotten rid of at least just one.
It's strange, like I said, because I feel like Russell, especially this last episode, he very much, and I again, this is coming from someone who actually, you thought the episode was pretty good, but he really did write up his own arse. And that was something that I think Moffat got accused of a lot, and I always saw it as Russell T Davies would be the guy to pull back from that. Like, in the class, not classic, well, so it'll be classic in a couple of years, really, when you think about it. His first couple of seasons, Moffat had these really big, grandiose ideas, and in my head canon, it was always Moffat, Russell was like, all right, pull it back a little bit, Moffat. Then when Moffat took over, he started writing up his own arse. Russell did that a lot with this last episode. And it feels like, and we've discussed this, I think he's throwing so much at it because I think he knows more about something else has gone on behind the scenes. I'm pretty sure that they were like, if we need to get this off the ground, we've only got 8 or 9 months to produce it. Otherwise, Disney, something in the deal saying they had to do it quickly. So it feels almost like he really rushed to get it out. I wouldn't say these are like first draft scripts, but like they definitely need to tighten it up. And it seemed like he tried to rush the 2 seasons out to build the hype without taking that bit of extra time and thinking, oh, I could change things. For example, the most egregious example of that is Ruby being named after Ruby Road. Why the fuck did we need an explanation for that?
The pointing, just the whole, even
that
if you'd had the explanation, I'm sorry, what mother abandons her child and goes, dramatically point at the sign to show that that's her name even though no one else is around?
And also,
assuming that
she knows the cameras. Yeah. I mean, I can make that, or maybe she knows the local area, knows the camera, but it's the fact that, does he think the audience is stupid? Like, I just thought we all kind of, it goes without saying that she was named after the road she was found on, and the fact that she reacts at the end like, oh my god, that's actually my name. It's like, bitch, you're telling me you've gone 20 years and you didn't think once in your life I was named after the road I was found on. I just, like, do you see what I'm saying? That didn't need to be said. Her reaction made no sense.
Again, it's almost as though he was trying to write as happy an ending as he possibly could, not thinking actually about how it came off on screen.
Yeah, it's like, it almost to me, it's like, you get she's named Ruby because of the road. Duh.
Oh, her mother actually named her originally.
Yeah. Like,
well, no, actually, it might have been nicer if Carla had chosen that, knowing where she was dropped.
Yeah.
That would have been
like I mean, maybe it's just my interpretation of the scene, right? Maybe it's just the fact that she's just really happy that her mum actually named her that as well, rather than it just being some in
I don't
social
know, it
services
just
gave her because of
feels-
Ruby Road.
It just feels.
It didn't come off. I think he was trying to do something different. I just didn't. It didn't come off, and I was like, "That's such a stupid idea." And you know what? I think Russell. And again, we're really being negative. We'll go into some positives.
We will go into positives because I
Yeah.
do have a lot of positives
Yeah.
to cover.
But I feel like, before we go into positives,
No, yeah, I've still got
Russell
one
does
more.
need, in a way, a script editor or someone, because he's now the head honcho. I think sometimes it's good to have a second pair of eyes, and maybe he does, to go through it and be like, hang on, this doesn't really make sense. Why did no one look at that and think it's named after the road, and she's pointing at it? Russell, are you kidding me? Come on now, you can do better. This is a man who wrote years and years, and it's a sin.
That's what I was talking about with my friend yesterday. Was that
Shout out. Hey, you know who
Amy.
you are. Yeah.
It feels like I think this is disappointing for a lot of people. Not only for people who have come back from watching Tennant and Smith, people who they are so in love with and then coming back, but people who have just come to watch this for Russell. When we know his
Yeah, we know he
first
can do
era of
better.
writing, when we know years and years, when we know it's a sin, when we know Cucumber and
Queer as Folk.
Queer as
you
Folk,
know,
and
really
we
great.
know he can write amazing stuff. My favourite episode probably of this season was not written by him.
Yeah.
That's what's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
I still have enjoyed this season. I think I'm
Yeah, in general, yeah. It's been really
genuinely,
good.
I've actually really enjoyed it. But it's just seems...
You can see the flaws, though, and there's more flaws in this
Disconnected.
season
And
than his first time round.
may I now go on to one last flaw, and then that
Yes,
will
you
lead
can.
me into a positive.
Okay.
So, one last flaw. I thought that also Mel being suddenly back in the 21st century felt very odd, considering she had actually been left in 2042, I think it was.
That was the future. They
It
explained
felt
that,
like-
though. They explained that in the giggle.
No, but it felt like she should have stayed in the future, and they could have just literally picked her up and gone back to UNIT, because that's where she died. And everyone else seemed to reappear where they had died.
Sorry, I don't get what you're... Oh, when actually Mel is travelling with the Doctor, you mean?
When she dies and turns into dust
Yeah,
in
yeah.
2042,
Yeah.
that's fine. But then when everyone is brought
Oh, when
back,
they were brought back, she's brought back
she's
in...
brought back in
Unit... Is she?
2024. Well,
Is
she
she?
just returns. She just
Oh,
reappears
I
back
didn't
in
know that. I
UNIT.
didn't notice that. I didn't know. Yeah, that's a bit of a...
I think you could have literally just had a comment being like, "Oh, glad you picked me up, Doctor," and that would have
Yeah,
fixed
that's a
that.
bit of a...
Just
I was-
seemed odd.
yeah,
Could
again-
have been cut.
But you're right, to be fair. That's like a really, that's a continuity thing right there. And we're not going to be, continuity whores about certain things, But that's the type of, leap in logic that I don't think Russell would have done in his first era.
That's the
I
thing.
do think in, 10, 15, 20 years' time, let's hope Doctor Who's still going, right? But I feel like in 10, 15, 20 years' time, Russell is going to come out, and people are going to come out behind the scenes and be like, yeah, we were under X amount of
So
pressure.
much
We needed to do
pressure.
these type of
So
things.
maybe again, maybe a lot of scenes did get cut.
Yeah,
You know, it's a possibility. However, that also leads me on to starting to go on to some positives. I loved how much Mel was in this episode.
Oh, brilliant. She's had so
It
much to do.
was so nice, not only having two companions in a way
Worked.
that actually fits both companions in well.
Yeah,
Which, Chibnall.
yeah, he had 3 in fairness.
But it was also so nice to have one of our classic companions doing so much and not just being there because she's a classic companion.
And because she's
It
just a
felt
screamer.
like
Yeah,
yeah, especially because she used to be a screamer companion.
yeah.
It was just, honestly, I thought she played such a good role. And one thing I will say about this season, and this has been echoed by friends as well, again, shout out, the acting in this season has
Top notch.
been phenomenal. And one of my new favourite characters
Ibrahim.
is Ibrahim.
He has 2
I
lines.
am obsessed with him already. Literally, just from not this episode, but the episode before, where
Legend of Ruby
it
Sunday.
exploded out, and he
And he
just
just
stands
there with a gun. This
and
is
you're
a
just
man.
like,
Whew.
yeah, you're just like, wow.
Even I
okay.
fancied him back in the day.
But then also, the cute stuff with Kate. I'm a little sucker for a little romance, so I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't usually like romance in Who, but I actually really shipped them.
It was very.
Also, an older woman with a younger guy. You don't usually see that, so I was like, all right.
But it didn't feel overdone.
Subtle.
It was very subtle. That was a good part of the writing, is that they did that. It was an odd choice. It felt like, oh.
Come on.
But actually, the way
I've
that it was done,
I'm down for it.
it was very just a little hand holding, like a little.
You do kind of feel like with this as well, this is how they're setting up the unit series. Like, if this is the unit team, I'm like, yeah, I'm down. I'm happy to see, apart from I want Shirley Bingham back in it as well. But if this is like the dynamic, Ruth Mendes.
Yes.
Then I'm down for it. I'm like, okay, I want you drop something.
Sorry.
I want that's what I'd like to see unit played. Like, so that was good.
Talking about obviously Mel as well. I loved the memory TARDIS. I love how it felt like we had a reason for having the memory TARDIS.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And again, a good part of the writing is how it was brought into the series and how they used it was clever. I thought, having all those references was a really nice touch.
Oh,
but
the
also
doctor's coat and the way Mel reacts when she walks in, seeing Sixie's coat. Sixie's coat. And just her holding it. Brilliant,
I like such a clever way to actually also connect the tales of the TARDIS and give people more of a reason to watch it, because I feel like obviously we're trying to get people back into Classic Who. I feel like that seems to be what this
he wants to sort of make it one whole thing as well.
But again, those tales of the TARDIS, you kind of went, what the is this?
Yeah, well, they came out of nowhere really,
and now it feels like actually
it makes sense.
It makes me almost want to go back and
now you've got this new content, because I always said I like Tales of the TARDIS, but I thought it's really strange they built this whole TARDIS just for this storyline.
Yeah.
These like were basically bookends to stories, but knowing that is part of the main show, and they were thinking then, oh, okay, we can do something with this. And also, I really liked in that episode, you could see the exact moment where the Pyramids of Mars Tales of the TARDIS takes place. When, do you just get up to squash a fly in the middle of our recording?
Yeah, because it was bugging me.
Bugging you. Good joke. You can see the exact moment where that story takes place, him chatting to Ruby, So I really like that. One scene I particularly enjoyed, when they're on that desolate planet with Fleabag's sister. If that's Fleabag's sister, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Good series as well. Her talking about her baby and the cot in the corner. That was really...
When she goes, I think I forgot it died.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, heartbreaking. And that's the type of writing that Russell can do.
There's a lot to like. There is a lot to like. Another thing that I really liked was going back to Robert Ap Gwilym. Is that what
Roger Ap Gwilym.
Roger.
Yeah, that did actually link in.
It linked in, and that, we kind of felt like we saw a little bit more of his world. I thought... I'm referencing, but I don't remember what happened.
And the doctor, like, weird things happen at 73 yards. It's like...
Yeah.
I think, but again, some people might look at that and be like, oh, it's like, why? Because still, it doesn't really answer any question of 73 yards. If anything, it gives us more questions, really.
It doesn't, but I appreciated, again, I think it's maybe because I like him as an idea of a Prime Minister so much.
It does sort of, sorry to interrupt, but it does also explain that even if Ruby doesn't stop him in this darkest timeline, he is stopped because he said, I was there when Roger Quillen resigned. I like to think, though, that is, in my headcanon, the Doctor has something to do with him resigning, and then in the 73 yards universe, because the Doctor's not there, then Ruby has to do it. But that's kind of cool, and again, I hope we see him again. But let's move on from that. Otherwise, I'll be gushing over an Iron Bernard.
Yes,
and I want to gush over other people.
And it made sense that in that scene that he could recognise that Mel wasn't Mel. Yeah,
I mean, it's the Doctor.
It was. It felt right that they had made the plan off of that, because that's a very Doctor thing to do, to be like, oh, and we've got caught, like we'll adapt
to this, And I actually liked the use of the rope, like they said it was like the Mavity or gravity gloves,
Yes.
and that's something I think Russell did well. Now, a problem I've always had with Russell's finales, and he does it a bit here, but I think he's done it a bit better, where he writes himself into a corner every time with a big event, and then he basically has a big red button. Boom! Everything gets reset. Everything's solved with a big red button, which comes out of nowhere. I like the fact that these gravity gloves were mentioned right the way back in the church on Ruby Road, so it hasn't come from nowhere. And he says it's the same technology.
Yes.
Then,
Yeah.
um,
Very quick, easy way to
yeah.
explain it.
Now I can see why our mutual friend, you know who you are, said he didn't like that they were basically taking Sutekh out for walkies, and that's what stops this giant godlike deity. But as I said to him yesterday, after a few sherbets, when you've got a godlike being like that, you've already written yourself into a corner where the power creep is so high that any way you defeat him was going to leave people upset because he's just too powerful. In theory, there's no way he can stop him. So the idea of having this rope, which the fact it exists in memory TARDIS as well, almost outside our reality,
Yes.
I can think, okay, that makes... I can kind of see how that would be able to stop him. Also, it seems like Sutekh has a physical form in this reality, so that's how you can attach it. And we know that him being in the time vortex buggered him up, to begin with. That's how he stopped him the first time. And I did enjoy that they explained that Sutekh has basically got to his final form,
Yeah, so that this is the end. We're not trying to think, oh, but could he come back?
Well, I see a point, but I was more referencing the fact that, like, when you first see him in Pyramids of Mars, he's really, really powerful, but he isn't considered he's considered a god to humans, but he's not considered a god amongst gods. He's not in the same pantheon as, like, the Black Guardian. But he mentions that being the time vortex, sucking all that vortex juice, I don't think I actually want to call it that, all the vortex energy has made him more powerful, basically. So I'm glad that was explained. And his design, actually really cool. I liked him... The way he had his arms around the TARDIS and was clinging on to it like a parasite.
I have to disagree with you on that. I think one thing that this made clear to me was that money was spent on CGI.
Yeah.
Not on makeup or practical effects, which is, for me,
a crying
method. Shame. I said it last episode for people who have been listening every week.
All two of you.
The makeup that we saw on Susan, where she was on the frozen desert kind of planet and where she was a cyborg, was some of the best makeup.
I didn't rate it. I thought it looked really cheap.
Okay,
really cheap.
Well, feel free, but I think it was nice to see some actual makeup.
Effects.
We saw some good makeup in this still with the skull type.
Yeah, the skill that was really good, actually, really good.
But one thing that I always enjoy more than CGI is practical effects and makeup. I think it's the best way to make something realistic. Personally,
and timeless.
I think CGI and timeless. And personally, I don't think CGI works as well. And I think, again, it's obvious that a lot of the money went to CGI this time around, and it was kind of just like,
I can see why people don't like his redesign. And I think that I would have preferred, like you, to make it more traditional how Sutekh looks. But there was something about the image of this creature hanging on the TARDIS.
I like the way he was sat on the TARDIS clinging on.
Yeah. And he moves it with his hands, spins it around like it's like a toy.
But it was almost as if he couldn't, after being clinging to the TARDIS for so long, like, we didn't really see him apart from the TARDIS at any point. It's almost as if that's his, like, he feels like it's his lifeline and he can't let go of it anymore. Well,
that's kind of like the same when we see Sutekh in the original, though. He's basically sat down for most of the story,
I think, again, I just wish they'd, even if it was CGI, I think it should have been closer to his original design.
Rather than the whole jackal, even though there's elements on the original.
Especially because it feels like it was too animal-like. In the first one, it felt more akin to Egyptology drawings of gods. And I know that in Egyptology, a lot of their gods do derive from animals.
Yeah.
But it felt more animalistic, which made it almost feel, to me, less godlike than the original Sutekh design.
Okay, I can see, it does feel like Sutekh feels more like like a king on his throne in the first one, whereas this he feels more like a beast. You know?
Yeah.
But I think it'd be controversial. It worked for me, but I could see why other people didn't like it. Um, what also worked for me was Shooty's speech at the end, defeating Sutek. Really like that. Not his best one, by any means, but I enjoyed it. Um,
Alright.
Obviously, we did the usual reset, kind of like similar to Last of the Time Lords, where the universe gets reset. Another friend of mine said that this should have been in 3 parts. We should have had The Legend of Ruby Sunday, Empire of Death, then should have been them wandering the dead universe, trying to figure out what to do, and then the third one finally defeat him. Because it did feel, even though I think this episode was longer, like 55 minutes, they did rush it a bit. Or if you're not going to make it a whole 3-parter, maybe do like a hour and 5, hour and 10. Sutek using like references to Susan and stuff, using the TARDIS's memory to create a trap. Cool idea.
Yeah, but again, I think that
Bit of a
could have been
tease.
better written. I think that the Doctor wouldn't have fallen for that. I think you would have had a better reaction from me if the Doctor had been like, "I know it's not Susan," because Susan wouldn't be in all these timelines and know it's a trap. I can't do anything about the trap until I face it head on. But that's for me personally.
Hurry up and just bring Susan back. Like, they keep teasing us with it.
Bring Susan back, and do you know what? This is an easy way to just say, okay, Gallifrey's back now as well.
Yeah, Death. When he reset it, he brought Death to Death. He somehow brought back the Time Lords the same way. Done. If you wanted to bring them back, but like, I was thinking, dude, I thought they might have done this, and I would have liked it if at the end, and Ruby's reunited with her family and they have the really nice little speech, and the Doctor goes off and he mentions about seeing his granddaughter. Why didn't he? The last scene of that is him going back and seeing Carol Ann Ford, you know, and I just would love to just, you know,
Especially considering
it's about
he says
family.
all about family. And actually, that probably would have made the mum reuniting with the daughter more powerful, because then you go,
It's got
well,
symmetry,
the Doctor can
abandoned,
see that,
yeah,
see the abandonment and see that she's forgiven her
Yeah.
and that they're family again,
Yeah,
and take that and do it
yeah,
himself.
100%. You know, so come on, Russell. You know, just get your head out your own arse, right? Stop. We get it. You know, the mum is normal, special, great, whatever, right? Just give us Carol Ann Ford. She's 84. We haven't got long left for her now. William Russell's already gone. You know, R.I.P. Just bring back Susan. One criticism. Well, not one. I've had several criticisms, and we like this episode. We're the ones who actually liked it. Crying again. He didn't cry last week.
No.
And again, I wouldn't have minded the crying if it hadn't been every bloody episode. Come on, man.
I think it's very frustrating, and I was thinking about this. It feels like we've come from Jodie, where she literally can't read emotions,
Yeah.
and doesn't have any emotions, even when her friend is telling her
Then
that
they
he
have
has cancer,
Yeah.
to a guy who has too many emotions and can't seem to control them.
You're
Which
going to get cancelled for that. You can't
doesn't.
have too many emotions.
But it just doesn't fit you. I know that you can have the Doctors have different personalities, but again, because it's every episode, it literally
Yeah.
feels like you've just gone from one extreme to the other with no effect. If anything, you could have. It just
Every time he
feels-
cries, it loses its, like, urgency. Like when we first saw him cry on the Church of Ruby Road, I was like, ooh, that's really cool, and I can understand why he's crying. I thought, ooh, we're going to give him an emotional Doctor. I thought that's cool, right? But not every single bloody time. It loses impact.
It loses its impact, and I think it makes him too human.
Yeah, and me and you don't like our Doctors being human.
Don't like, no.
Yeah.
I want a little, he can have emotions. I'm not saying
100%.
that.
I like him
But
being like
at
that.
the end of the day, this is an alien who, if you watch the original Pyramids of Mars,
Yeah.
is the most unemotional person in that, because he realises that he just has to get on with it and save
job.
the world.
Well, he is emotional, but it's more anger and focus rather
Yes.
than...
You could have had him be like, I faced this before. How I dealt with it was by shutting, pretty much,
Yeah.
focus and shutting down the other emotions
Yeah.
until I could get this done. If you could have had like, no. Just,
Yeah,
sorry.
he's done it too much. I hope next season, still have him cry, but maybe every other week. Make it a bit fresher.
Or just once.
or maybe having cry over things that are really, really powerful, you know, that actually have a big impact, you know.
Surely Shooty is a bit sick of having to put the tears in every like couple of episodes.
You'd hope
You know?
you would
Surely,
think,
like-
yeah. And he's had some badass moments, really badass, and nothing against Shooty. Brilliant actor. I think I actually gel with his doctor a lot,
No, I do
but
as
not
well.
the crying too
But
much.
not the crying, and it's again. It seems unfortunate when the episode before he seemed so angry. He
Yeah.
punched a wall.
Yeah,
He was
that was
frustrated.
brilliant.
Mel gave him a great pick me up. You
Yeah,
get on
brilliant
with
scene.
it. So then, why is he then all of a sudden crying again?
What's he like? When I've had this
Could
with Capaldi, let me
could
tell you.
have continued on with the Mel gave me a pickup speech because it's
Yeah.
the same day, or
Yeah.
maybe not because actually they've travelled in the desert.
And God knows what day it is.
But still, come on, lads.
Yeah, it does feel like all the time. Final thoughts, Mrs. Flood, Anita Dobson. I thought she was really good in this. I like the scene where she was like, I had so many plans, and she was hugging
Yes.
Cherry Sunday. It's like, what? The thing is, I'm excited to see where she's going. However, I'm a little bit apprehensive because of how this season ended with like the rug pull of like, ha ha ha, fooled you, Ruby's mum was normal. And also, sorry, I just need to get this off my head. Why the hell would Sutek give a shit about Ruby's mother? I know there need to be a reason so that he hasn't killed the doctor yet, but he's been traveling the TARDIS on the TARDIS's back. He's got access to all the TARDIS's basic information. How could he not work out? And I know it's meant to be the idea of, you know, it's we mythologize these people. She becomes a big issue, big thing because we want her to be. But at the same time, this is a god. Why would he give a damn? Like it seems a bit contrived, and that because I think the explanation is, he's a god, and you know, there's this big mystery, and he wants to know the mystery as well, you know.
Now,
But she's only a mystery because we want her to be a mystery. It was very silly, and that didn't make sense at all.
because you've actually just spoken about these two things in tandem with each other, I have had an idea based off the theory I told you about who Mrs. Flood is. So,
Go on.
for our listeners, my theory is that Mrs. Flood is the god of storytelling. I think it would link to obviously the way that she goes,
She's breaking the
keeps
fourth
breaking
wall.
the fourth wall, in the way that she is talking about the way that she talks about things. That
Yeah.
she's, you know, says it's almost as though she's commenting and ending the narrative of Ruby's story.
Yeah.
And
Well, she literally did.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And I lost the third one that I was going to say.
Doesn't matter. She's god of storytelling.
But my theory is she's god of storytelling. If she is the god of storytelling, based on what you've just said, it could be that she has somehow created the story of Ruby's mother, and as a god, that's the story that has compelled Sutek.
Because there's
This
like a
would
god's
also
involvement.
make more sense for me if this is true. It would make more sense to have the whole really, really happy ending
Yeah.
contrasted with the Doctor's whatever story he's going
Yeah,
through.
which they said is going to be horrific. Like
Which
she
is
makes
gonna
he's
be
going to suffer.
horrific.
Yeah.
And this is the third point that I was going to make. It also makes sense why so many of the episodes that we have had seem to echo other things.
Other stories.
Like, for example, the
Bridgerton.
Bridgerton episode.
The Inside Number 9
The
episode.
Inside Number 9,
you know,
kind of Black Mirror.
yeah.
All kind of other people's stories being used to fill in the narrative of this story.
I mean, that's an interesting trope, and you could link that to the land of fiction as well, and you could easily do something there, which would be pretty cool.
However, I'm kind of expecting to be wrong. And I don't think
She's just gonna be a girl now. She's a normal lady.
she's just a normal lady.
She's a normal lady who
She's a
hasn't
lady.
taken her pills and keeps talking to the camera. Also, she must be bloody freezing up on that roof.
Oh no,
At
did
the
you
end.
not see the big fur coat?
I did see a big fur coat, but her age, she's what, late 70s?
What's it? They
Bloody
say
freezing.
fur coat, no knickers.
Fur coat and no knickers. It's a different Doctor Who. Right, we're gonna have to wrap up before we say anything else. Storyline, I enjoyed it, but I do think that this is going to be the most controversial ending of an era, well, end of an era since the
Yeah.
Timeless Child.
We
I think it's
watched
going
it
to be
in
up
the
there.
cinema, and I was listening to other people as we exited the cinema, and you could hear them going.
Oh, they did not like that.
They did not like it. Like there were so many comments about disappointment.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and
I hope
things like
kind of
that.
Russell seizes and kind of winds his neck in for season 3 if we're lucky enough to have it, which don't know whether it will, but I'm hopeful. I'll stay hopeful, travelling hope, so to speak. Good, I had fun with it. Were there plot holes? Yes. Were there probably too many plot holes? Also, yes. But the way I describe this, right? This is like a custard slice, right? It's sweet, but there's no substance to it, you know?
Yeah.
It's very hollow. It looks pretty, right? But I want a custard slice now. It looks pretty, but if you actually go into the meat and potatoes of it and mix them in metaphors, there isn't really much there.
No.
So final thoughts, kind of the usual Russell T Davies-isms. Big red button, not as bad this time round. The usual Russell T Davies problem of starting with a really strong first part and then slightly disappointing second. Am I still excited to see where it's going? Yes. Oh, it's at the same time. Lovely. And yeah, that's it. So, guys, what do you think? Please like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your significant others. Leave us a comment calling me a fascist or a cuck. Either one is good for the algorithm. And what are we going to do next? Maybe we should review the series as a whole next time round.
I was going to say, obviously, this will be our last commentary on
Forever.
On each individual episode, but I think we need to do our rankings of each episode.
Do a tier list.
But also let us know if you want to hear any videos on classic Doctor Who, or if you just want to know any other opinions on other seasons of Doctor Who. Give it and keep on listening. I beg.
Please, we beg you. Otherwise, we're just talking into the ether. We appreciate every single one of you who listens. All 5 of you. You know who you are. And enjoy.
We'll see you soon.
I was going to say enjoy. Yeah, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.